So Triss, you got to play with the Nintendo Switch OLED model for about an hour. Not only did you get to play with the Switch OLED model, you got to play Metroid Dread. How was that?
It was honestly really great. I could feel the radiated energy off of you. You really want to talk about this.
I do. So the reason why I wasn't able to play Metroid Dread, the Metroid resident Metroid fan here over at GameXplain, was because I don't live in New York, and this preview event was in New York, where Triss lives in, so it makes sense, right? But
yeah.
I still got to watch the footage, and I vicariously played through you in my head, so that was fun to watch. But yeah, I have so many questions. But first, let's talk about the OLED model itself. Right. Give us your overall thoughts on it. What is the screen like? Is it colorful? Is it bright? Is it shiny? All that stuff.
You know, it's actually really funny. It is shiny. I noticed like the outer like bevel part of it seems more reflective. It was hard to get the right position for taking photos and all that. But I gotta say, just as like an initial impression before I get into too many details, when the OLED was originally revealed, my first thought was, hey, this looks cool. I do play in handheld and tabletop here and there, but I mostly play console, so it's neat, but I'm not terribly interested. But now that I've actually played it, if I played handheld and tabletop even slightly more often than I already do, I would definitely be getting this. Like, this kind of sold me on it. Honestly, it's really vibrant in handheld. It definitely just looks better in handheld than the original Switch does. The speaker quality is really nice. I was actually rather surprised looking back at my videos, just how well it captured the sound. We're not including sound in this because there's a ton of other background noise too. But the fact that it actually heard it and it was loud and I heard other people's games across the room, that was kind of impressive actually, because I don't think the normal Switch can really do that, or at least not that clearly.
Yeah, I was surprised it wasn't like hooked in with an audio cable to your iPad camera. It was just, it was very clear.
It was pretty clear. Unfortunately, I didn't get to test out like the brightness settings of the console itself. We couldn't access the home menu to any degree. But I was able to test them in Metroid, so at least in game I was able to mess around with the brightness. But overall, I really loved the kickstand to it. I know it was advertised like, hey, it's not just a normal Switch kickstand that swings out to one set click-in angle and done. I thought it goes to a few other ones, but you could set it to any point and it just stays, and it's really versatile, actually.
That is really cool to see. And yeah, just that screen size. I was watching the footage too, and I'm just like, I want this. I hate that I want this, but I want this. Maybe by the time it comes out, I'll be like, oh, I mostly play Switch on my TV anyway, so really not much of a point for that. But yeah, the system looks really cool, and you could just see the colors pop through the video. Granted, off-screen video is not going to do the system justice. You're going to have to see it for yourself. And what a better way to test it out with a game like Metroid Dread, which is already a pretty colorful game.
Exactly. It's rather vibrant. When I would think of Metroid, I would always think like darker, grittier in terms of like color and all that, but the colors really popped. It was really nice, actually. And that's a good testament, too, to how good the OLED screen looks on the Switch. I know most people go on about how the Switch normally looks its best when docked in a TV, which totally makes sense. Its performance usually is just much better when docked. But I feel like people that own an OLED are more so going to want to actually use the OLED screen and play in tabletop or handheld mode when they're not at their TV. Like if they're like laying in bed or sitting on a couch or somewhere else and they don't have easy access to a TV, they'll be perfectly comfortable opting to play in handheld or tabletop mode because it's just that nice. They don't feel like they're missing anything.
Yeah, but when it comes to the Joy-Cons, it doesn't sound like there's much to be missed there. They sound like they're exactly the same.
The Joy-Con are exactly the same, yes. The only difference is that these are new white Joy-Con. The OLED also has the neon red and blue set, just like the normal Switch did. There's literally no difference with these Joy-Con. If you buy these white Joy-Con, they'll function on any other Switch. As far as I know, there's absolutely no change. It's just, look, new version.
So it sounds like after using the Switch OLED for an hour, you're kind of you're a little more sold on it than you initially were when it was revealed.
Yeah, I'm definitely more sold on the OLED upgrade itself. I don't know if I will upgrade anytime too soon because I have the special edition Animal Crossing Switch that I only got like a year ago, and I don't really want to replace that yet.
Get rid of that. No, sir.
But if I ever want or need to upgrade, I definitely am going to be looking at the OLED because it just seems very nice. The dock too. We didn't get to really explore the dock too much during the previous session. That was more of the Nintendo representative there, playing the game on it and kind of showing things off. But the dock itself looks really sleek, honestly. Like, I know you could see that from like the reveal trailer and all that, but when kind of writing notes up and everything, seeing it just in person, actually displayed like in front of a TV, it just looks really sleek, and it looks much better than the normal dock, which always looks kind of bulky to me. I don't know if actually putting the Switch in is going to be any smoother than, not that it's smooth now, but I don't know if it'll be any smoother or better than it currently is. The first thing that came to mind, and this feels so weird to say, aesthetically, it just looks so much nicer. But it kind of reminds me of the PS5 in terms of the shape and the color.
It's black and white.
Yeah, but it's one of those. I feel like just aesthetically, if you're someone that owns multiple consoles, putting your Switch OLED dock right next to a PS5 would just look aesthetically pleasing.
I was thinking that too. I was just like, if I ever got a Switch OLED and I put it next to my Series X and my PS5, it wouldn't clash at all.
Yeah. But it does have the Ethernet port. They did talk about that quite a bit, but we didn't get to really like look and explore it all that much. But that's the only real difference with the dock.
Mm-hmm. Is there anything else you want to say about the Switch OLED before we move on to the dreadful game you played?
What a way to describe it.
Yeah.
We did learn, and we'll be going over this in a details we learned video about the whole event. We did learn, much to Andre's excitement, that the Labo VR will work with the Switch OLED.
Excellent.
Not all Labo, but most Labo will work. I believe the only ones that won't work are the bike and piano from the Variety Kit.
Well, there goes my biking hobby. Like, I can't do anything else now.
It means you can't play with the Labo bike in Mario Kart 8 if you have an OLED.
Tragic. Just tragic. But anyway, let's get to the juicy deets of Metroid Dread. I think this is actually the first time like press was able to play this game too. So it's kind of a big deal there. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure this is the first time. At least first time one of us here got to play it, so that's all that matters.
That is true.
You got to play the first area of the game, so basically what they covered in the treehouse, but you were able to still see a whole lot more than what we saw at the treehouse. You saw the intro, you saw the little prologue too, which details everything. I was kind of sad to find out that Samus does not voice act in that intro. They play text but they show text in between, but there is still voice acting. I guess it sounds like it's mostly just default computer noises. There were a bit more story details shown off at the beginning. Adam's a little sus. He says at the beginning,
to note, Adam himself or computer itself is not what's sus. That's not what's sus.
God, so many people clicked away from this video now. I know it, but he says like at the beginning, there's something weird about this mission. Like the risk is not worth the reward. What's going on? And he says later in the game too, at the beginning, still like something is really off. Like these Emmy are designed to target you, Samus. What's going on? So either this is set up by the Galactic Feds or the Chozo that we saw at the beginning. My theories are getting more proven to be correct, and I couldn't be more excited.
It definitely seems like they throw you into plot like pretty early on, like even more than some other games that kind of just give you like an early preface of what's going on. Now, granted, I'm saying this like I know that many, but I've only played 2 Metroid games before this, and that was Other M when it first came out, much to everyone's dismay, and Metroid Samus Returns in preparation for this. So I know what the plot of both of those are like. I know what the plot of or at least the prologue to Samus Returns is like, and this is really different. This really throws you in more and has you already thinking about the world and what's going on, and also recaps a lot too.
Yeah, it does. It's got to recap a lot because so much has happened before that. I mean, what I saw from the recap, it mostly just recaps the events of Fusion because those are super important for this game. But enough about the story. Hey, if you clicked the spoiler tag, welcome. Welcome. You skipped to this part of the story. Now we're not going to talk about any story details from here on out. But anyway, how's the gameplay? Is it a lot like Samus Returns? Because it looks like a more refined version of Samus Returns.
Yeah, that's probably the best way to describe it. It feels almost exactly like Samus Returns, but so much smoother. Because playing Samus Returns for this, that was actually that was something I noticed. Like, I kept having, I don't want to say I was having trouble with Samus Returns before this, but like something about it on the 3DS just felt a little clunky. Certain movements it took me a little while to get used to them.
Mm-hmm.
But here, I mean, with the I think it's called like the dash melee, or basically the counter while moving, because I don't remember the exact name.
I think it is dash melee.
It's really satisfying to pull off, and the slide, like the movement in this game. If you know what you're doing, I feel like you can just run through and never stop. It's really satisfying, and it's really smooth, and it feels like a perfect evolution of what we had in Samus Returns.
Yeah, I remember playing Samus Returns recently in my replay on the road to Metroid Dread, and I was kind of thrown off a bit because, you know, transitioning from a Switch to a 3DS is quite the transition, right? And it is a more slower and clunkier sort of game, not as slow and clunky as Super Metroid, but still kind of in that realm. But in this footage, like, Samus looks to be moving faster. She does the dash melee, and she shoots everything in a 360-degree sort of angle, and it's really cool. Now tell us about the controls, because you paused at the control screen too, showing off, like, I think it's L button. You hold the L button, and that's how you're able to, like, look around, sort of similar to Samus Returns. But the left trigger, you slide. It's kind of the same control scheme as Samus Returns, it looks like, but with a few neat little additions.
Yeah, and since there's seemingly more buttons to work with, or in general just refining those and making more use of all the buttons. Since for recording purposes, really trying to show off the OLED, I kept trying to keep it in tabletop mode, but we weren't allowed to detach the Joy-Con, so it was really interesting trying to keep it tabletop while trying to do all these buttons at the same time. So eventually, I after having enough of it, I did just start holding it and trying to hold it steady in front of my iPad, and it felt much more natural then to do the 360-degree motion while also sliding at times and running around. So when you're able to hold the controls comfortably, basically, it actually feels very natural. And as long as you know what the buttons do, because it definitely took me a few minutes to remember what was what, once you know what you're doing, it definitely starts to come naturally, and nothing feels like I never felt like I had to reach over for a button to do a specific thing.
Mm-hmm.
Everything felt at my hands and at the ready.
That's really cool. Yeah, and what I've noticed from looking at the footage, this could just be my my like hype goggles looking at it. I feel like this opening area, compared to other Metroid games, especially 2D ones, has way more like blocked paths than any other Metroid game I've seen. Like you start off with so little gear, like as usual.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like there's so many doors you can't open right away because it requires the charge beam. There's all these other blocked paths that can't be accessed until like much later, it seems. Like it looks to me like you're going to be revisiting a lot of areas in this game, which is great because Samus Returns and some other 2D Metroids in general felt kind of linear in the sense that backtracking wasn't required as much to progress the story, but if you do want to become the ultimate warrior at the end, you do have to backtrack, of course. But here, for one, the maps just look freaking huge. Like I've seen in the trailers, like the maps of these areas are massive. So I just can't wait to explore all the little branching paths they have, and yeah, it just looks like there was a lot of stuff you couldn't have accessed in that demo without getting gear much later. Like you had to get the Phantom Cloak, which you get at the end, which is when you had to stop the demo.
Yeah, granted, we could have played past that point. There was a set point. It was like going to a specific location. In my experience, I only got up to getting that ability and defeating that boss. It took me a while to figure things out, but they also said nobody reached the point going to that other location. So then nobody who had come to this event had gotten that far. So evidently we had the ability to play quite a lot, but unless we were seasoned Metroid speedrunners, we were not going to be able to get that far.
I could have been there. I should have been there. I would have beaten the game at that point, I swear. But I was noticing the Emmy, and you seemed quite panicked during those moments.
A little bit.
I noticed you kept forgetting that you could slide under things.
I did keep forgetting I could slide under the Emmy. I'm so used to sliding specifically like when there's a small path, I keep forgetting you can slide under the actual enemies. That even stunned me during the boss until they like showed it.
Playing games is a lot
Getting
different
used
when you're on camera too. So it's I understand that totally.
To the backtracking point, we were told specifically during our gameplay that no matter how far we get, we wouldn't be getting the Morph Ball. We would not be getting this ability, despite it normally being one of the early ones, apparently. And I'm pretty sure it's an early one in Samus Returns. So they told us we were not going to be getting that. And I've noticed quite a few areas that look like you need that, or that ability to be able to get in.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I think you're right. I think we are going to be doing a lot of backtracking.
Which is great. The more backtracking, the better. Like, the best parts about Metroidvanias, Metroid in general, is just exploring, finding new stuff, upgrading your gear. Man, it's and speaking of other Metroidvanias, you've played quite a bit of them, haven't you?
Yeah, here and there.
So there's always been this stupid debate on Twitter, like this game ain't worth $60 because it's just a 2D Metroidvania, right? How do you feel about that, especially now after playing it?
I don't see why people look at Metroid and think it's not worth a full-price game. Like, there's a full experience here. It's very clear there's a full experience here. I mean, did people complain when Samus Returns was full-price 3DS game?
Nope, they did not.
Then there's no reason to complain here, because also, visually, it looks great. The cutscenes look great, too. The cutscenes are better than we saw back at Treehouse. I remember back then, and you were pointing out to me back then, that there was some stuttering during some moments, and I didn't notice any of that.
Yeah, I noticed in the treehouse footage during the boss and that, the frame rate chugs real bad at a certain point during the final cutscene when you beat him, but it was not here in this version, so I'm just glad to see like that hopefully the cutscenes are like rendered better in this version than it was at the treehouse. You bring up a great point, and especially I got this vibe even more when watching your gameplay. This is a 2D Metroidvania, of course. It's a genre that's been taken over by the indie scene. Even if you ignore the fact that Metroid birthed that genre, it created a genre, guys. Like, this is definitely a 2D Metroidvania with a budget. Like, there's just so much production quality in this game so far, at least what we're seeing from the trailers. And like the scenery in this game looks gorgeous. Even in the part you were playing, it looks gorgeous. It's gonna get even better from there. Not even just mentioning the fact that this game looks massive. The maps in this game look so huge. Like, I've never seen Metroid maps that big, ever. I'm just so excited.
And this is definitely gonna be a treat.
Oh man, it's gonna be such a treat. So, are you gonna pick up the game at launch, Tris? You gonna get it at launch?
Originally, from reveal, my take on Metroid Dread was, looks amazing, and I know I want to get into the Metroid series more, so I would definitely be getting it at some point. Now, I do want it at launch. Like, this convinced me. Like, I definitely want to get this right away and play it when everyone else is. I don't know if I'll know the full story, but it might be fun to look back on everything.
Like, I do recommend people play the 2D games before playing Dread, but if you can't, there's a recap. What's more important is that you hashtag buy Metroid Dread.
Yeah, this convinced me. I'm definitely wanting to get it at launch, and I'm sure if we're able to review it, I'm sure you'll be the one to fully review it. But I look forward to that. But from this preview event, the hour plus that I got to spend with this game definitely sold me on it, and it's just really fun, honestly. The fact that I got into this much faster than Metroid Samus Returns on 3DS, I just wasn't feeling that one for quite a while. But this one, in like 10 minutes, I was like, I knew what I was doing. I was getting excited. I was fearing the Emmy, as I should be, because those things are terrifying.
Even though they have the most innocent name ever. It's like, oh, little Emmy, I'm gonna kill you. That's it. But yeah, I should also clarify, like, I'm not telling you to mindlessly just buy Metroid Dread, even if you're not sure about it. Do your research. Wait for reviews to come out if you have to. Wait for a sale if you have to. But like, yeah, I'm just speaking as a hyped Metroid fan who hasn't had a brand new game in 11 years. Samus Returns was a remake, and Federation Force was a spin-off. So this is literally the first new Metroid experience we're getting in 11 years, and the first new 2D Metroid game in 19 years. So a lot of us fans are kind of unreasonably hyped for this game, or reasonably hyped, depending on how you're looking at it.
I'd say it's reasonable. Nearly 20 years since the last new 2D Metroid, or not last new game like that. That's a big deal. And when the last new Metroid in general, before this, that was a mainline game, was Other M, I think
Yeah.
you have reason to be hyped for how this is looking compared to that.
Oh, yes. And I'm glad to hear Triss is now a new Metroid fan, everybody.
I think that's a good way to put it, yeah. I'm honestly excited for this.
That's great to hear. Any final thoughts on Metroid Dread before we close this discussion, or any final thoughts on the Switch OLED?
As a current Switch owner, like I already have a Switch, the Animal Crossing ones I mentioned. I don't feel like I'll get a Switch OLED at launch, but I'm very interested in it. But I know I'm getting Metroid at launch because what little I did experience with it has completely sold me on it. And I think that's a good way to put it.
That's a great thing to hear too. like you hear that, new Metroid fans? Like, this is a game to keep your eyes on. But of course, I'm not going to tell you to mindlessly buy Metroid Dread. Be an informed customer, everybody. But I have a whole video on it. Check it out. But yeah, thank you so much for watching this discussion here on GameXplain about the Switch OLED and Metroid Dread. We have another video coming out. It might already be out by the time you're watching this about a few things we found out from the event about the Switch OLED and Metroid Dread that we didn't cover here in this discussion. So check that out when it goes live. But in the meantime, thanks again for watching. Be sure to subscribe to GameXplain for more discussions like this, and check out the videos on the right for more topics that you might be interested in. But until next time, bye.